Sit back, relax, and join William and Lee on their journey through the strange and mysterious world.
Welcome to season 2, episode 1, Strange and Mysterious World. And yeah, this is going to be a good season. Thanks for everyone for listening last season. This season, hopefully we can carry on and we'll go from there. All right. Yeah, it's getting there slowly.
It's almost back to like how it was. It goes fast, man. That was like a month ago.
Just over a month, yeah.
Hey, is that a month growth?
Yeah, just over a month.
Holy crap! That's
quick.
I'm gonna go vegan again, man. If your head's going that far, there must be something happening. It's good.
Yeah.
But now I've got so much work, which is like fantastic because I'm trying to get out of this financial hole.
Yeah.
And I will be out of it by the end of July.
Oh, awesome.
So with the projection of the work and also with this new flat and everything, I'll be back like totally in like I'll be freedom, dude.
In the positive.
So free. I can't wait. I'm feeling. I've almost paid off all of my daughter's school fees. It was 90,000 rand. I've almost paid it all off for the year.
Fuck, for the year, 90K for the year. Fuck.
No, it's actually at the times that by 2 is 180K for the year.
Jesus, what school is she going to? Like a fucking varsity of Cape Town.
No, she's in grade 1, bro.
No, say what the fuck. 180,000 rand. Fuck, no ways. 180K.
Yeah, that's how much it costs. And we wanted to pay up front. It's actually like 200,000 rand, but if we paid up front, we get 20,000 rand off or something.
So what's the benefit of paying so much money as to going to a normal school where you're paying like 2 grand a month or something?
A good question, B. But I don't know. I wish I had 2 kids. And I'd send one to the government school and one to the fantastic school. And then I wish they were twins as well. If I had twins, and I'd send one to the shitty school, the government school, and I'd send one to the top end school, and we would compare them at the age of 30 and see where they are in their life. I wish I could do that. It would probably be cruel though with the one kid, but
I don't even think if you're studying to be a lawyer, I don't even think it's that much.
No, but I mean it's funny because I thought it was a shitload, right? And it's an American international school here in Cape Town. I mean, I went to American school in Tananarivo in Madagascar for 3 years with all the diplomat American kids and the missionaries and that, and that was the best school I've ever been to, like hands down. Like, and I went to 10 different schools,
of which you were expelled from 8 of them.
I was expelled from 2 of them, but like, I went to 10 different schools, and that was one of them, and it was the best school I've ever been to. Like, and I went to some private schools as well.
Thank God I don't have kids, but
no, dude.
I'll be living in a shack, but all right. So we better get on to tonight's topic.
Okay.
which is the Anunnaki, as per Zecharia Sitchin's theories. Because obviously, Zecharia Sitchin wrote quite a few books on the Anunnaki.
Yes.
Now there was a book, dude. This is such a lot to unpack. I can't actually even explain. I was listening yesterday to a YouTube channel, The Lost Book of Enki, one of Zechariah's books.
Yes.
4.5 hours long.
Were you listening to it on Audible?
No, on YouTube. It's like like a mini movie. It's like done in a documentary style, but man, it is long. It was long. And it is so in depth. So I thought, okay, because look, I do know a little about the Anunnaki. I'm not like an expert.
But was the guy just reading a book and that's why it was 4 hours long? Or what was it just a talk on it? Was the Zecharia Sitchin himself talking?
No. So I think this guy today, I think he might have been reading from the book, but the way he did it, the way he read, because you don't see, you see like images and pictures, and then you talk about the different gods, and you see pictures pop up of them, and then you talk about Eridu, which is one of the places that had built. You see like a little city comes up. So it's like I think he reads from the book, but it's not bad reading. It's not like if I had to sit and read this packet of chips, it's like the Willard's Big Corn Bites, tomato flavored maize chips, extra pack. No, it's not like that. It's like,
Okay, well, do it like he would do
it's
it.
red
Now,
well.
now that you've done that, you have to do it like he would do it.
No, so he would say like Woollards, pecan bites, tomato flavored mace chips, extra pack. Yeah, not like that, but the way he read it, it's good. It almost sounds like somebody's reading a story to you, like when you're going to bed, when they're like, when somebody's like telling you a story.
So does he do all the voices? Does he do the voices?
No.
And like, does he change his voice?
No, but yes, it's 4.5 hours, dude. I was like, fuck. But very interesting. And Zecharia Sitchin, obviously, look, he was a self-taught Sumerian text expert, if you want to call it like that. So there's a lot of stuff that he came up in his books that wasn't really found anywhere else. But, obviously, as a writer, he was embellishing a little bit here, there, and everywhere. But the general story that he had was true to the clay tablets, the cuneiform that they found in Sumeria.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, what we'll do is we can start right at the beginning. At the beginning, there was a planet called Nibiru.
Well, maybe just explain what the cuneiform tablets are first for people that don't know what that is.
All right. So cuneiform text is basically this wedge-shaped text that was done into clay tablets back 6,000 years BC. Apparently, it's one of the oldest written script in the world currently that they've found. So this was the first writings apparently by human beings, but it was done in wedge shape. And it took some time. It took some time to actually decipher these. I think that it was only recently, in the last couple of 100 years, that these were deciphered. So whether everything is correct with what's been deciphered, I don't know. I mean, we can never know.
But the thing is, but what's really interesting is they've got AI to start deciphering it now, because like the thing is that like Zecharia Sitchin or whoever like was analyzing it and translating it, it was very like misinterpreted, or you could put apparently
different ways,
put your own way of like analyzing it. So Zecharia Sitchin could think it's reptilians, and then someone else would say it's something else, a god or like a ant. Well, anyway, so now they've got AI doing it, which is going to be really interesting. Also, because they only did like a few 100,000, and there's like millions of them. So like now they can do all of them. So that's going to be interesting when they figure that out. But they probably will find something so amazing and then not tell anybody and just give us some scraps.
Yeah, because you must remember, as the archaeology goes, the guys are still figuring things out. I mean, they've now figured something out. 12,000 BC, they found something in Syria that's been dated back to 12,000 BC. So we're going back and back and back and back and back, further and further and further. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised when they start finding proper texts that was actually done back in those days. But so back to the Anunnaki. So there's a planet called Nibiru. It's not really mentioned too much in the cuneiform. It's mentioned one or two times, but nothing really much is mentioned about it. But according to Zecharia Sitchin, it's in our solar system, actually, and it revolves around the sun once every 3,600 years. Now, the strange thing, or the funny thing is, I don't know if you saw that NASA actually think there's a planet just beyond Pluto.
Yeah?
Yeah, they think there's a planet there because something's happening around that area that they're considering there's probably a planet that's hidden that we can't currently see.
Okay, but how come we cannot see it? What's hiding it, or what's happening? How can't they?
We don't know. They don't know. They can't pick it up. Obviously, with the satellites that have gone past, they haven't picked up. So it might have not been in the orbit close by to the satellites that have passed by. But they're saying that there's something there. They're saying something is there because there's some stuff that's going past Pluto that shouldn't be going at the speeds. So it's almost like
when did they see this?
It was about a week ago.
Oh, okay. Fuck, great.
Yeah. So, but
put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, and then there's also, I don't know if you know, there was a whole couple of years ago they had that thing about Planet X, the 12th planet.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a lot of things about the Planet X and that.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to figure out, so like if Zecharia Sitchin didn't get it from the cuneiform tablets, where did he get it from?
Look, so a lot of the stuff.
I always thought that he got it from the tablets.
No, he did, but I think there was a lot of embellishment. So obviously, because he was a writer and he was writing books and stories and stuff, so I think a lot of it I can't say made up, but he probably just added things into, for the story.
To sell it. Some clickbait.
Yeah. So, but saying that anyway, we got to carry on with Nibiru. So Nibiru was very similar to Earth as it is maybe in the next 100 years or so. Advanced civilization, they had wars, same as what we have. They started developing issues with their atmosphere. So like what we have, our ozone layers depleting, and it was just killing all the crops, and people were starving, and it was getting pretty bad. But
they had a lot of cars and
no, I don't think they had cars,
bridges.
but because they had a lot of volcanic eruptions, and there's a lot of stuff that's going on their planet that was causing the issue. So they tried various things to try and sort out the ozone, and they figured out gold dust actually worked pretty well. But the problem is with gold, it's very scarce on Nibiru. It wasn't, you could hardly find it. So what they were doing, they were searching nearby planets and the Kuiper Belt, which they would call the Hammer Belt. We call it the Kuiper Belt, where all the asteroids and shit sit around that whole loop. Yeah. And they were getting gold from there. Now, no, they weren't, at that time, they weren't able to penetrate the Kuiper Belt, or the Hammer Belt, as they would call it. The heating on the planet, even though they're so far away, you would assume that the planet would be like Pluto, ice cold. But what kept the planet's heat sustainable was a lot of volcanic activity. So there was a lot of volcanoes, and that kept the heat of the planet actually quite stable.
Okay, but how did like plants and stuff grow there?
Yeah, there's a lot of, all that stuff. They had plants, they had water, they had all sorts of shit going on there. So, because I think water is actually quite a dominant thing in the planets.
But if there was like no photosynthesis or whatever for plants, like or the sun. I mean, how does the sun ray get there or whatever?
No sun, nowhere near. So everything that was happening on their planets came from the planet itself.
Okay.
So their plants and stuff weren't the same as ours. A lot of the animals that we have on Earth came from them. So what had happened was there was a king on Nibiru called Lama. And he was like our current government. He's like fucking useless. Did nothing. Things were happening. He just fucking sat in his ass and, did fuck all. So one of the princes of the realm said no. He challenged him. He actually killed the guy. He killed Lama. This guy's name was Alalu. And he took over the kingship. But the problem is, at that time, there was also issues with who would be the next king. So he killed this oak and said, okay, I'm the next king. But the problem is, it didn't work like that, because if you were the firstborn, of the previous king, you would then need to take over as the heir apparent. So there was a bit of an issue now, because he said, no, I'm the new king. The heir apparent said, no, I'm now next in line, so I'm going to be the new king. So the way to solve this is the guys had a one-on-one combat, no weapons, just empty-hand combat. And whoever won that one would then rule. So anyway, they fought an Anu, who was the heir apparent. He won. So he ended up taking over Nibiru. But now the problem is with this guy, Alalu, he got a bit scared now, because when he killed the king, he killed a whole lot of other people that were on Nibiru. So he was a bit scared. He thought, shit, all right, these guys are probably going to kill me. So he managed to escape via a ship. He escaped the planet, and he headed towards the Hammer Belt. And no one had actually got through before. And he said, no, stuff it. I'm going through this belt. And he managed, by hook or by crook, he managed to get through the belt. And when he got through the belt, that's when he found Mars, Venus, Earth, and he managed to land on Earth. And they had certain space suits and stuff like that. And he went out, checked the planet around, checked to see that the atmosphere was actually breathable. What he did find, though, in one of the rivers was gold. And he thought, okay, he has a plan B for him now. So he can get hold of Nibiru and tell them, okay, I've got gold, but I'll give you the directions here only if I become the new king of Nibiru. So he sent the message out to Nibiru, and Anu and them are all like, okay, shit, he's found gold, but we're not going to give him the kingship. But what we will do is we will forgive him for his transgressions from the past, so he can still have his life, and he can maybe rule somewhere on Earth. Or Earth was then called Kai. Enki managed to come through. He was the first, being the firstborn son of Anu. He came through to Earth. He was the first of the Anunnaki. So which Anunnaki basically means the princely seeds of Anu, or the offspring of Anu. So he was one of the offspring of Anu, Enki. And he landed on Earth, and he actually created the first city called Eridu, which was in Sumeria. And quite close to Eridu, they opened up a place called Eden. It was a massive garden where they had their own plants from their planet. They had animals from their planet. So the first set of Anunnaki arrived. Now, their plan was they're going to now find this gold. They're going to start shipping it back to Nibiru, because this is the main reason for coming to Earth, was for the gold. With this arrival, quite a few other of the Anunnaki arrived. But the problem was when the guys started mining gold, because they started opening mines for gold, it was heavy work. There was another group of aliens called the Igigi, which they then used to mine the gold.
Oh, grace.
Well, I don't know. They don't actually say. It might have actually been the reptilians.
Too small.
Eh?
Oh, it is.
It might have been the reptilians. But the Igigi, they started working, and it was going well, but they also started thinking to themselves, hey man, this is cuck work. So they rebelled. There was a bit of a rebellion going on there. And Anu decided to come to Earth. He said, okay, cool. I'm going to come and have a look and see what the hell's going on here in Earth. So he arrived with his other son, Enlil. Now, Enlil is his second born, but was his firstborn from his first wife, from his original wife, because the Enki came from a concubine.
It's so funny because it's like supposed to be this advanced like civilization. They can get from that period planet to, they got advanced technology, but they just as like animalistic and barbaric.
Yeah.
As humans are, concubines, like freaking sons with all sorts of women fighting each other in cages, and then there they are on Earth, slaves.
But that's not even a norm. That's not even a human thing. That's just a normal thing, whether you're human or whatever. I think it's just a natural thing in the universe where we're always fucking fighting, or where there's some sort of battles going on. You always read about it.
Just having sex with everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So concubines here, there, and everywhere. But anyway, so the Igigi went up against the whole thing, and they were like not happy. They said no, they're not keen to be working in the mines anymore. So Anunnaki had to come up with a different plan. Now, one of the scientists, a woman, she actually said, I think her name was Ninsurg, I think. She had actually found that there was a primate that was on Earth. And she said, well, why don't we use this primate and create another being that maybe we could use as a species to mine the gold? So Anu and them were in Lil and Enki, and well, no, good idea. Let's try that out. So they used the primate with the Igigi. So they used the womb of the Igigi. But the beings that came from there, like these things, it was like terrible. Like from one-eyed, two-headed. This is also where we get our Greek mythology. You get like the Cyclops and the two-headed giants and all sorts of shit. So I think that's where that might arrive from. But anyway, so that didn't work.
Like a DNA splice, or did the primate mount it?
No. They said it was artificial insemination.
Gross. Like a gorilla.
That still didn't work. That whole fucking thing with the primate, with her womb. So what they decided, okay, they're going to use an Anunnaki womb, and they're going to use the seed of a primate. That worked. And then the first human that was born on Earth, they called Adamus. Okay, he was red-skinned, so almost, the way they were describing it, it sounded almost like he was American Indian. The way it was described. That was the firstborn. They were quite chuffed with this idea. They said, okay, cool. They brought him up in the Garden of Eden, kind of taught him, everything. But the problem is that was one. Because this worked now, there was a whole lot of other Anunnaki women that said, okay, cool. They're going to do the same. So there was another 7 that also did the same thing. They gave birth to boys. And it was boys. And eventually they said, no, man, we need to start having some women. They actually wanted to start procreating, not to keep having an Anunnaki woman. They wanted these things to start procreating on their own, these humans. So they created the first woman. The first woman was called Ishtar, maybe. Can't remember now. But I think they were trying to create a whole new species. And Enki was a bit a bit of a naughty okay, because they kept telling him no, and he kept having ways of like, no, but we need to do this, and we can, there's a species that I found out in the bush, and they were able to work. Meantime, these guys didn't know that he was actually genetically manipulating these things. So he told Anu, no, I found this species. It's alive. And they can think in that. Meantime, it wasn't. He had actually created this stuff. So they thought that on the planet there was this being that was able to be taught and kind of looked similar to them, not realizing that Enki had actually been fucking around with the DNA. So
yeah, because that's actually like when I read about the Anunnaki story, I always thought that they just manipulated the DNA, and like because that sounds more scientific, and like like what highly advanced civilization that come from a spaceship outside, they would fuck around with DNA and splice it and do some CRISPR and whatever to modify a human.
Now the two of them, Adam and Eve, or Adamus and Eve, were in the garden. They were the only two. The others that they had created were now working in the mines. But there wasn't enough because the Igigi was still working in the mines. They were still complaining. But Adamus and Eve were the only two allowed in the garden. They were like the show pieces. So when the Anunnaki came, it was almost like a zoo. Oh, look what we've created. Look at these beings. The procreation thing, they needed that to get done. That's when the human race started with procreating. But the problem is Enlil, who was then given, he was actually in charge at the time now of Earth. He didn't spark human beings. He was like totally against them. He didn't like them. And when Enki had said, no, we need to, they must procreate, he's like, no. But Enki anyway went ahead and he got them to procreate. And that's why they got chased out of Eden. Because Enlil was like, no. I don't want these oaks here. You boot them out, take them out. So Enki led them out with some animals like sheep and goat and stuff like that they could start with. So that's how Adam and Eve actually, or Adamus and Eve, got kicked out of Eden from the procreating thing.
Okay, so, but I mean, these guys must have lived to like a hell of an age.
Long, dude. Nibiru's were like thousands of years old.
Okay, because I'm just thinking, like to sit around and wait for a whole, like a harder race of people on the planet from their superiors back on Nibiru, to grow into a whole slave-like nation. You're talking about like 20 years at least.
Yeah. So you must remember now when first.
That's if you've pregnated but a few thousand of your own child, but for waiting for them to procreate and making their own children. I mean, then we're talking like, maybe like 100 years to get a whole, 3 generations going of lots of people.
Yeah. But you must remember now, Enki and Lil and all these guys being the first to arrive were there right to the flood, dude. So how many 1,000-year-olds do you think there were on Earth? They were thousands of years old. But obviously being on Earth, they did age slowly, but they did age. Where on Nibiru, they didn't. It was like they were almost immortal, because of obviously the atmosphere and the food that they ate and whatever that they had on Nibiru. On Earth, they started aging slowly, obviously, because of who they were. The whole biblical story of the Garden of Eden, this is obviously a bit of a shortened version from the book that I was listening to yesterday. But the whole biblical version of the Garden of Eden actually derives from Sumeria. It's actually from the Sumerian myth, the Sumerian religion. Garden of Eden.
Yeah, and so it's like Moses. Doesn't Moses also come up in the clear film tablets?
Yeah, but it's Noah. Noah and the
Noah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Noah and the flood, but it's actually not Noah. Okay, so what actually happens with that? The planet Nibiru is now coming towards Earth. It's obviously coming into the solar system. And the problem with that, though, is it's starting to create havoc on Earth. The water, the volcanoes, the earthquakes and everything has started to become quite a lot. It's happening a lot, especially as the closer that this planet is getting, the worse it's getting. And Lil, he says, no, we must all go. We must leave Earth, and we must leave the humans to die. Like I said earlier, he wasn't a fan of the humans. But the problem is, Enki had slept with human women, and Lil had slept with human women. A whole lot of other Anunnaki had human women wives. The
So is that
Igigi,
like
the Igigi had slept with human women and had wives from each. And you remember in the Bible it talks about God's children?
yes, the Nephilim. I was just about to
Yes.
say, is that the Nephilim?
Yeah, that's where that originates.
Ah, okay.
So that whole Nephilim idea comes from this whole thing. So now, and Neil said, okay, you've got a choice. If you've got an earth woman, you either leave her and you go up into the spaceships when the flood happens, or you stay with her on earth and you die. Your choice, but you're not taking them with you. So no human being. So they all had to swear. They all had to swear on oath that they wouldn't go and warn the human beings. They wouldn't go and speak to the human beings. But in the meantime, Enki has this dream. It's like a prophetic dream where there's this being that comes and tells him, listen, tell the human being that this is going on. He says, but I can't. I've given an oath. He says, no, don't worry. Don't speak to him directly and don't let him see your face, because then you'll still have your oath that you didn't speak to the human being. So he said, okay, cool. So he wakes up from the dream. He says, all right, this is a prophecy. I better go and do this. So he finds, I can't remember the guy's name. He goes to this guy's house and he talks to the wall. So he's not, the guy can hear him, but he's talking to the wall. So he's not talking to the guy directly. And he says, okay, I'm going to leave a tablet outside. These are the measurements of a ship that I want you to build. Build it, because in the next while there will be a flood and this whole world will be flooded. And in order for you to survive, you need to follow this. And then he left. And then the guy came out and he went and he got the tablet, and that's why he started building this ark. But there were never two of every animal, ever. They had genetic material from sheep, cows, horses, whatever. They had all that genetic
Don't tell me
material.
they put the sheep and cows jizz in their wives as well.
No. These were this was in like a box. Okay.
But later when they came back, then they put it in their wives.
Yes.
Come on.
No. So what had happened was they'd actually had these genetic codes for all the animals, or like in these little vials, if you want to call it. They had them stored, and he had to keep it with him on the ship, on this boat. When the flood started happening, one of Enki's side guys, the guys that used to work with him, he ended up coming on the ship with this dude. And there was a whole lot of other people that came. It wasn't just him and his family and all 10 million animals. There was a whole lot of other people that came on the ship with him. That actually helped him to build the ship, these people. For 40 days and 40 nights, same as what it says in the Bible, these guys floated. They landed up on Mount, we call it Ararat, but it was called something else in the day. And at that time, Enlil and all the space travelers came back to Earth, because now everything had, the floods that were over and everything had settled. But he didn't know humans had survived, eh? Enlil thought everything was dead. And they were now coming back to start again. When they landed, the guy that was supposed to be Noah, let's call him Noah. Eh?
They're waving at the ship like,
No. So what had actually happened
coming
was,
down, he's like, fuck, I thought you were dead.
he actually did. So Noah, let's call him Noah for the sake of the viewers or the listeners. He came out and he then gave an offering. I think they had one of their domestic animal, like a goat or something, on board with them for food and milk and shit like that for the 40 days they were in there. And they killed the goat and sacrificed the goat. Now Enlil lands and he smells this stuff and he said, what the fuck is that? So Enki's like, hey, no, let's go and have a look. They go and look and they see that humans have survived. Now Enlil is pissed off, dude. He's like, fuck, I told you, you've gone against your oath. And then Enki says, look, I had this dream. This is what happened. I didn't go to the guy directly. I spoke to the wall, so I didn't break my oath. But I think, because you must remember now, the Anunnaki also believed in an absolute God. Enki says to him, he thinks that this is a message from the absolute to save humanity. This is why he did it. It was something that came from the absolute, and Lil said, okay, no, all right, cool. He's happy with that. Yeah, that's kind of the whole flood story. So we know that the whole biblical thing was actually just made up from the whole Sumerian tablets.
Oh wow! But yeah, there's like a flood story in every culture.
And do you know that Anunnaki, the word Anu, actually, if you go and look in Sanskrit, it actually means Lord Shiva, and in Arabic, Anunnaki means ancestors.
So all of the mystery schools, like in Mesopotamia, Greece, and Rome, when you like a lot of the history of it, when I've read certain books, it always comes up with the Anunnaki, and it says that I mean, it was people that were worthy enough of receiving enlightened information about the truth of, why we're here and the universe and everything was actually given by the Anunnaki. And then those people were the first people that started the mystery schools, like what it was like in the times of Atlantis and Lemuria and that. So they would find someone that worthy enough with a good enough heart and mind and good intentions, or like were really good human beings. Then they would receive the information from the Anunnaki, and that's how the mystery school started, was to get this enlightened information. Yeah, it's interesting. And also, is it Enki? Enki, isn't he in Egypt?
He's Thoth.
Osiris, isn't he Osiris?
No, Thoth. It's the god of wisdom.
Which also relates to Hermes Trismegistus.
Yeah, 100%.
The third greatest.
Yes.
It's also funny because like they couldn't actually say the greatest. There was no word for greatest. That's why they would say great, great, great. That's why it's the third greatest. So and also, when I talk about the mystery schools, obviously the Egyptian mystery schools as well.
Yeah.
But cool, man.
And when they were creating the human being at the time, when they were doing the whole DNA thing, there was one of the Anunnaki that helped him, a guy called Ningishzida. I think we actually mentioned him in a previous podcast. He helped with the splicing of the DNA. His symbol, Ningishzida, is the two snakes, the Caduceus staff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, dude, there's similarities going so far back, which is actually so interesting. And you can start putting the dots together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll notice that, I mean, when you look at the gods, the Greek gods, and you look at the Roman gods and all the rest of it, there's always, it all stems back from the Anunnaki. Do you remember a thing called the King's List? It's from the Anunnaki as well. It comes from Sumeria.
What are you talking about on the temples of Egypt, where they've got like 30,000? It goes back 30,000 years of all the.
No, this is even further back. It's 241,000 years worth of kings. It's in the tablets. Yeah, it's on the tablets. But the experts say, oh no, these guys didn't really know what they're talking about, and they were mentioning some other stuff in the celestial beings. And I'm like, dude, these guys are not that stupid, man.
It's also the same thing with the on the temple, the King's List I forgot what temple is in Egypt, where it shows a lineage goes back 30,000 years of the pharaohs, and the same thing. And it's clearly like dated and everything, and then they're like, no, but it wasn't really the dates. Like it was like they were talking about moon cycles or something. It's like they always try and because it doesn't match with their stupid timeline that they learned in university. Then they're like, oh my gosh, now how are we going to tell the public how this, how we can put it into our narrative? And then they just make up some bullshit trying to put it in there.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's clearly there's 30,000 years of kings.
Yeah. And in the Sumerians, it's 241,000 years. Some of them ruling for 41, 43, 48,000 years equivalent. Now, you also remember now, yes, okay, perhaps maybe in the days prior to the flood, perhaps maybe the years were shorter. I don't know. It's difficult to say, because you must remember now, after Nibiru passed and kind of went on its way, Earth kind of stabled out a bit. So perhaps it was slightly shorter years. I don't know. Maybe winter came a little bit quicker. I don't know. But it's still, even if you had to half that, 120,000 years, that's still a long, long, long time. And the funny thing is, archaeologists are always saying, oh, yeah, no, but they meant this and they meant that. You can't say that, dude. You weren't there 12,000 years ago. You're making assumptions. People just make fucking assumptions all the time. And you can't do that. You can't assume this is what they meant. Previously, the archaeology had us dating to 5,000 BC. Because, they found the whole biblical thing. And the Bible says we're only 6,000 years old. But we're already almost 3 times past that amount of time. So now a lot of the religious guys, I don't know what to say now, because the Bible and that only originates from when Abraham, because he was the originator of the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy. He was in Sumeria at the time. That's why this whole stories of Eden, all that came about, because he just borrowed it from when he was in exile there. But the problem is now, So the Bible is written, I don't know, 3000 BC. What happened to the past 10,000 years before that?
Yeah.
Hey, was God not around? Did he just, what was the story? Because
Well,
now
it's funny
the
because,
religious folks don't know what to say. It's like,
I mean, what the pyramids are dated, well, in academically, that's dated back 4,000 years, right? The pyramids, right?
yeah. But it's dated
But
back
then,
to a mistake. That's why.
yeah, but the thing is that then when they looked on the erosion on the back of the Sphinx, Robert Schoch, they went there, or what was the first guy that Anthony West, he I don't know, he was reading some book and it said like and it said clearly the age of the pyramids would be the dated to the erosion on the back of the Sphinx.
Yeah.
So then he went and he started looking at this and he's like, wait a second. And then there's all this erosion on the back of the Sphinx and in that closure that it's in. And then he got Robert Schoch to come out there and look at Robert Schoch was, Harvard, he had tenure at Harvard and he in geology, and he came there and Anthony West got him out and Robert Schoch looked at this thing and he says, yeah, it's actually 15,000 years. This erosion, he says it's 15,000
years
or even older. He says even older, but he's making like a kind of and it's from heavy water erosion.
Yes.
So, it had to be in a tropical environment for 15,000 years. It's been a desert for long. So you could think that.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
and also remember that the Sphinx had been buried up until 1940 into I think the 1940s when they started digging it out.
Yeah. So how long was it under sand for?
Exactly.
So 15,000 years. Why do I keep saying rand? 15,000 years of erosion. See, I got a lot of money on my mind. But then Robert Schoch obviously got torn apart. He almost lost his tenure at the university. They almost threw him out of the university, took his tenure just for stating that he from his data, examining it as a professional geologist he's got a PhD. He's like tenure at Harvard, his professional opinion about the data that he's seen there, he just gets annihilated. He got thrown out of he was out of those academic circles. He wanted to take his tenure away. They wanted to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
Career wise.
But I think they've actually gone on to say that Egypt, prior to the Ice Age was 12,000 BC. So Egypt prior to that was green. It was tropical. And then even after the Ice Age, once everything had melted, it was still tropical up until at least 9,000 years BC. Because the stuff in that only started melting when the ozone, there was a bit of a problem with the ozone, and everything started melting again.
Yeah.
And that's when the Sahara became a desert. So there's actually proof. There's proof to say that Egypt was tropical at the time.
Yeah.
So he's right. The Sphinx was built way prior to 12,000 BC, as were the pyramids.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. Thanks, guys. We'll end it there tonight. Thank you again for joining us on season 2, episode 1, Strange and Mysterious World. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks for spending, guys. Cheers. Cheers, Will.
Cheers, man.